Alright guys, I'm a little late, but these are the books I'm most anticipating in 2021. Let's get started. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Zach with Zacks Books, and today I've got for you some 2021 releases that I am most excited about, and I would like to share them with you. I think I've got 12, 13 on this list. I don't remember. We're just going to get this started. Don't forget to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and let's go. Alright, so the first one I'm going to talk about is A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman, which he's the author of Bird Box and Mallory, which both of those books are really good, so I hope this one's going to be good. It comes out January 19th. It was actually released a few years ago, but then it got pulled, and it's now being re-released this year on January 19th, which is not that far away. I think it's like a week or so. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's about two 17-year-old friends who go canoeing on a lake, and at the bottom of the lake they find a house. And I mean, it just sounds really weird. Why is there a house at the bottom of the lake? It sounds really intriguing, and I want to give it a read because I've liked the two books I've read by Josh Malerman so far, and by what I understand, this is going to be some sort of like horror thriller book too. So yeah, January 19th is A House at the Bottom of a Lake, and I'm really intrigued with it, so we'll give it a read. Next on the list is a thriller by C.J. Tudor called The Burning Girls. And that comes out February 9th. I recently got The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor, and I've not read it yet, but I'm really intrigued with it. It sounds cool. But The Burning Girls also sounds pretty interesting. An unconventional Vicar moves to a remote corner of the English countryside, only to discover a community haunted by death and disappearances, both past and present, and intent on keeping its dark secrets in this explosive, unsettling thriller from acclaimed author C.J. Tudor. I mean, that sounds really interesting. I enjoy thriller books, haunting, like scary books, with death, disappearances. I mean, that sounds really cool to me. I'm just intrigued with this book. I also want to read The Chalk Man with it, probably, so maybe I'll do another author analysis video, like I did with Nick Cutter. I might do the same thing with C.J. Tudor. But yeah, that's The Burning Girls, February 9th. The next one I'm going to talk about is Later by Stephen King, and that comes out March 2nd. This is a hard case crime book. I struggled with The Colorado Kid. I've not read Joyland, but I'm planning to read Joyland and Later together, so that way I've read all three of his hard case crime books at once. This one sounds interesting to me, not only because it's by Stephen King, but of course that's a big factor into it. But it also sounds cool. The son of a struggling single mother, Jamie Conklin just wants an ordinary childhood, but Jamie is no ordinary child. Born with an unnatural ability his mom urges him to keep secret, Jamie can see what no one else can see and learn what no one else can learn. That sounds really cool. It's like an unnatural ability like that. Kind of seems like Danny from like The Shining. Like, that's an unnatural ability. He can see things that others can't. And I don't know what the whole learn things that others people can't learn. I don't know if it's going to be, with it being a crime book, I'm going to assume that it's probably got something to do where he can, kind of like John Smith with the Dead Zone, he might be able to see like murders happen if he touches somebody, or, you know, something like that, or he might be telepathic, he might be able to read people's minds. Who knows? It all just sounds really interesting to me, and of course it's by Stephen King. So I'm hoping with this one that with it having that supernatural thing, it might make it seem more like true Stephen King than the Colorado Kid was, where there's no like natural thing. But I'm really hoping it's a good one. March 2nd, cannot get here soon enough. So let's get into the next one. Alright, the next one I'm going to talk about is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This comes out March 18th. This is a horror book. I have not read anything by this author before, so I don't really know what to expect going into it. However, the synopsis sounds really cool. This is a story of a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, death, and an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. All these things are true, and yet they are all lies. It's kind of like saying, like, you think you know how it's going to go, but like there's going to be twists Like I said, I've never read this author, so I don't know what to expect twist-wise with it. But the whole, a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, and death, and then just a house. It's an ordinary house. So I'm very intrigued with this. It sounds cool. I want to give this one a read. March 18th, The Last House on Needless Street. The next one I'm going to talk about is The Other Emily by Dean Koontz, which comes out March 23rd. The premise that I'm understanding with this is it's about a girl named Emily who goes missing. A lot of people think she was murdered by a serial killer, and what ends up happening is I think the guy's an author, the husband was, and ever since the disappearance or murder, a lot of people are presuming she's dead. He's not coping with it well, and then he meets this girl, and I think her name's Madison, but she kind of gives off the same traits as Emily, and so the author's like, okay, is this Emily? Is somebody fucking with me? Like, what's going on? And so that sounds pretty cool to me, with the whole, is this Emily, hence the name The Other Emily? Like, is this another Emily? Is this, who knows where that can go? It could be like she got brainwashed into thinking her name's Madison, but it's really Emily. Who knows? It sounds really cool. I have not read a Dean Koontz book yet. There's a lot of clash between, you gotta like King or you gotta like Koontz. I would like to read Dean Koontz book to kind of give some comparison, see how he stacks up against King. I was trying to read Devoted this past year, but I never got to it. But now with this new one coming out, maybe I'll read both of them. Maybe I'll do another author synopsis and kind of do a analysis of Dean Koontz and just see how he stacks up against King and see if I can like him as well as King. Who knows? But this book sounds really interesting. The Other Emily coming out March 23rd. A lot of books coming out in March, and I think we still have one more. So let's get to that one now. Alright, so the next one is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten, and that also comes out March 23rd. So that's pretty cool. So I read the synopsis of this thing, and it sounds really fucking creepy. A town, the Lost Village, something happened and everyone vanished. This lady's grandmother vanished. The only people who survived was a woman who was stoned to death and a newborn baby. And so the girl and a group of her friends go to this village and try to figure out what happened, but as soon as they set up camp, a bunch of shit starts happening, equipment starts breaking, people go missing, and it just sounds really creepy and really eerie. I would love to give this a read. They keep mentioning the Blair Witch in the synopsis, so I'm assuming it's going to be kind of similar to that, where you kind of get recordings and documentation and stuff like that, as opposed to one full-on story. I could be wrong. I've not read anything by this author before either, so we'll see how it goes, but it sounds really spooky and really interesting, so we'll give it a read when it comes out. Alright guys, next one up is Near the Bone by Christina Henry, which is released April 13th. I read the synopsis of this one, and it sounds really, really creepy. A woman trapped on a mountain attempts to survive more than one kind of monster, and a dread-inducing horror novel from the national best-selling author Christina Henry. That kind of drags you in, thinking okay, it's going to be a survivor story, but then as you kind of keep going with the thing, she's got a husband named William, and apparently there's a dead fox that appears in the woods, so she's already thinking, okay, there's another creature out here, and then some 3 strangers appear on the mountaintop looking for the creature in the woods, and Maddie knows their presence will anger William. Terrible things happen when William is angry. I guess I have already as William is some kind of creature. That's my guess. I'm throwing it out there now, 3 months before the book even comes out. I feel like William's got to be some kind of animal of some sort. Otherwise, why would she be referencing 2 things she's being afraid of up in the mountains? But otherwise it sounds like an interesting book, and I really want to give this a read. Another author I've never read before. That seems to be my trend here with the 2021 books. But yeah, sounds interesting. April 13th, we will give this a read. Well, a couple days after maybe. But we'll give it a read around then, and we'll let you know what we think. The next one is The Whispering Dead by Darcy Coates, which is released May 4th. This one appears to be a series. Gravekeeper number 1 is what's listed underneath the title on Goodreads. So I'm assuming that means it's going to be part of a series of some sort. Darcy Coates is an author I've been trying to get more into. I read Dead Lake by her, and I really enjoyed it. I want to read more of her books because they all seem really intriguing. They call her in this the rising queen of atmospheric horror. So that puts me kind of in the mood to want to read this book. And The Whispering Dead, it kind of sounds... So it starts out by saying like she's homeless, she's hunted, and desperate to escape a bitter storm. Kira takes refuge in an abandoned groundkeeper's cottage. So obviously it's going to have some part in a cemetery. It just sounds like an interesting book. I don't want to dig too deep into it because I do like keeping the suspense when it comes to like horror thriller books that I know are going to be like solid. But The Whispering Dead by Darcy Coates comes out May 4th. I'm excited for it. Maybe I'll do another one of those like author things where I read this one and a bunch of other ones. We'll see. But yeah, May 4th, Darcy Coates, The Whispering Dead. The next book is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, which comes out June 1st. This is the author of The Silent Patient, so what I was thinking of doing is maybe doing a reading vlog with both of them in the same thing. I don't know if he's got a third book out yet, or if this is like his first 2 or whatever. But this sounds interesting. It's a spellbinding tale of psychological suspense, weaving together Greek mythology, murder, and obsession. I mean, that sounds pretty interesting to me, weaving those together. I've not read like many Greek mythology type books or anything like that. I mean, in high school, I think I read part of the Iliad or the Odyssey or something like that. But that's pretty much it. I am intrigued to see how he combines them all and makes it kind of work. And I'm also anxious to see how The Silent Patient works out too, because I know that was a really good book that a lot of people really enjoyed. And I'm hoping I can enjoy this one. And we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, coming out June 1st. The next book I'm going to talk about is Survive the Night by Riley Sager, which is being released July 6th. I've read all of Riley Sager's books so far. He progressively has gotten a lot better, in my opinion. Final Girls I did not like. The Last Time I Lied was okay. Lock Every Door was solid. And then the last one, Home Before Dark, was like a 5. I think I'm pretty sure it was a 5-star read for me. So if he keeps on the same trail, this should be like a 6-star. But I'm hoping it is because it sounds interesting. A girl is... The way how the synopsis kind of looks is there's a girl in a car with a guy, and she's presuming that he is the campus killer. But as of right now, he's just a stranger to her. And she keeps, like, thinking that he is the killer because he keeps saying, like, you know, don't look in the trunk. And his story doesn't seem to add up, and so I might kind of see how she would think that. But it seems really interesting. It sounds intriguing. It's also Riley Sager, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a good book. I mean, anything I think is going to be better than Final Girls. I just did not enjoy that book. Sorry for somebody who did. Not every book is for everybody. That one was just not for me. So I'm hoping Survive the Night will be. Comes out July 6th. We'll be ready. Speaking of Final Girl stuff, the next book I'm going to talk about is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. On here, the release date is claiming to be sometime in June, but we also heard it might be in July. We don't know. It's going to be in the summer at some point. But it sounds interesting. The Final Girl Support Group is an homage to slasher films and follows 6 girls who belong to a survivor support group that have been meeting for nearly 2 decades. The girls, the publisher elaborated, managed to survive the unthinkable, and now someone is coming for them. I mean, the Final Girl genre has not been good to me. So I'm hoping that Grady Hendrix, another author who was kind of a surprise for me in 2020, can turn it around for me. Because unfortunately Riley Sager couldn't do it for me. And so I'm hoping that Grady Hendrix can, because I've loved everything I've read by him. And I really hope that I can enjoy some sort of Final Girl book. I don't know, I just have had an issue with them, and I've got no idea why. But yeah, the Final Girl support group, Grady Hendrix, coming out June, July, some point over the summer. Alright, the next one I'm going to talk about is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, which is set to release August 31st. The first sentence in the synopsis sounds kind of quirky. In her quickly gentrifying rural lake house, Jade sees recent events only her encyclopedic knowledge of horror films could have prepared her for in this latest novel from the Jordan Peele of horror literature, Stephen Graham Jones. I find the comparison to Jordan Peele kind of funny. I've read 2 books by this author. The Only Good Indians, which I did not like, did not understand it. And then the other one I read was Night of the Mannequins, which was pretty funny. It's a good horror little short story book. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be another Final Girl type book, but the way they're making it sound is it might be. Jade feels like she's trapped in a slasher film as tourists go missing. I mean, that kind of comes off the line right away as it's probably going to be another type of Final Girls thing. I mean, it's Stephen Graham Jones. I don't know, Night of the Mannequins was pretty good, but The Only Good Indians I did not like as much. So hopefully I can enjoy this one, My Heart is a Chainsaw, which comes out August 31st. I really hope I can enjoy this. It does sound pretty intriguing, so we'll see. But August 31st, My Heart is a Chainsaw, Stephen Graham Jones. We'll see you then. Alright guys, the last one I'm going to talk about is Echo by Thomas Old Huvelt. I read Hex by this guy, and I still don't think I'm pronouncing that last name correctly, and I'm sorry, Thomas. Which that is set to release October 5th in the US. He is somebody who writes, I don't know what language it is, I think it might be German. That already came out, I think, 2 years ago, but it's finally being published for the US on October 5th. It sounds really cool. Nick Grevers and his climbing buddy Augustine are drawn to the Maudet, a remote mountain peak in the Swiss Alps. Documentation on the mountain is scarce, its slopes are eerily quiet, and when they enter its valley, they get the ominous sense that they are not alone. Then it goes on to later say that Nick wakes up and his friend is dead, and he's got bandages all over his face, so I'm intrigued to see what happened and where it goes from there. I did enjoy Hex by the same guy. And I thought that was a really cool book. So he's already on a good trend for me. So hopefully Echo can do the same thing, which is going to be released again October 5th. So yeah, we'll see October 5th. Echo. Alright guys, so those are the 2021 releases I am most anticipating. A lot of them sound really good. All of them sound really good, honestly. There are other books I'm sure that will probably be released or talked about this year that will be being released also in this year that I don't know about. But these ones all sound really interesting to me, and I'm excited for all of them. What are some 2021 releases that you're interested about? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video. Later.